Hello and welcome to the Isuzu UTE A-League download. It's lucky because I was born in a ute, so I'm delighted to be sponsored by Utes. Now, after a critically acclaimed preview show, we've now got some actual football to talk about. What a start in Auckland. Even the Prime Minister turns up to get some reflected glory. A full house and a good 2-0 win over Brisbane Raw. Sydney FC come out on top in the derby. Patrick Klimala with the winner. Douglas Costa looked sharp. A solid start for him. Not the dream start for Perth Glory. 5-0 down at half-time at Macarthur. Are they allowed to turn the season off and back on again and start over? The champions, Central Coast, start with a goalless draw, but a good goalless draw with Melbourne victory, while there's a win for Melbourne City. And Australian football's brand new feature, Art, with Thomas Sorensen, begins in earnest. This is the Isuzu UTE A-League's download. Delighted to say, Thomas Sorensen, Archie Thompson, with me again. Hello, chaps. Good weekend.
Oh, fantastic weekend. Yeah. Got to celebrate my son's 20th birthday.
Happy birthday.
Along with the games that were on, and they were fantastic. What an atmosphere around the grounds as well.
Yep.
And some feedback for this show, which got worryingly positive reviews. I don't know. I'm not used to doing a football show where people say, I like this.
Me and Archie have done the...
Yeah. Oh, you were all these. Yeah. Chuckmeat says, we've been crying out for a weekly A-League show. We finally got one. Mark says, this is the type of content that fans have been asking for. Don't fumble a good thing. Don't fumble this. We're in a good position. We could mess it up today.
Yeah.
And this is from A-League Critics. Says, Archie Thompson is a genuine legend of Australian football.
Thanks,
It's gone over and beyond.
That's very true.
It's not finished yet. Over and beyond in his service to the game here. Whilst he might not be perfect, no one is.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that like a little kind of a dig?
It is a bit of a dig, isn't it?
Well-
Because what he's saying is, either he's saying nothing about me or Thomas, or he's seen that we are perfect. And he's saying, in many ways, you're a kind of rough diamond, Archie.
I'm perfectly imperfect.
Yeah, you're our rough diamond. Right, let's get on with the actual football, shall we? We thought we'd start with Auckland FC, right? What a day for them, you know? You hope when you get a first game, a home game, you're going to win. The atmosphere was great, and it was a perfect start for them.
Well, we talked about this before this weekend of fixtures, was that Auckland start off really, really well. And it was everything that I didn't even expect that. Like that full stadium, the atmosphere was insane. And the football that Steve Corica got this team to play with the short time that he's had them. And when you're trying to start a franchise and particularly a team from scratch and trying to get that understanding about how he wants to play, how the players adapt to their teammates, how they fit within that structure. And they got it right. They got the win that was needed, sets up for this weekend when they play Sydney. There's a tasty little bit of, I think, a rivalry in that because of Steve Corica and Sydney FC. But tremendous start. Just incredible.
Yeah, and I thought that first goal embodied everything, the energy that they came out with, because I think that was the difference. They really just overcame Brisbane. Verstrada wins it in the midfield. It goes to Sakai, who's bombing on. He manages to get it forward. And then he keeps his run, and that was De Vries as well during the game. Those two were immense, bombing on either side. And then Guillermo May lays off a great pass to Saka again, and then I don't know what Harry did. Van der Sar is doing.
A great finish.
His body shape wasn't great, but it's great. Yes, you would be happy with a tap-in like
beautiful
that.
finish.
Maybe he just wanted the history to be the first person to score
It looked
for
like
Auckland
it.
FC.
We can't be too harsh on him, but after 8 minutes, what a start! And I think it just went from there. And then local players scoring as well.
Yeah,
local players, having a chance to play. So I think they couldn't wish for a better start.
Yeah. You mentioned that Logan Rogerson, first player to score for Auckland that isn't an own goal. Local boy. I mean, he had been out in Finland and Armenia. I know you watch both those leagues very closely,
Yes,
Archie, but I confess, didn't know a lot about him. But what a brilliant, that is you have moments that you don't forget in your career, and that is one for him.
Oh, well, 100%, because if you go back, and here again, I don't like to talk about myself, but you kind of referenced it to where I should. Yeah. You don't forget your first goal, you don't forget certain things that happen in your life, but I scored the first goal for Melbourne victory. So for me, that was an amazing moment, and that can't be taken away from you. And I think
actually they've lost the tapes because it's so old, so it has been taken away from you.
Can we find that? We've got enough people. You can't see that. There's enough people there to find that. But look, he'll go down in history as being that first player that scores for Auckland, which you can't take away. So amazing.
A cool finish. Like you would normally you'd see a player slash at that, and
Yeah.
he just taps it in. You know, I'll be saying it was close to world class finish, and like Kevin De Bruyne would be happy with that.
I think that's overstated.
Is it? Is it? Like, we
I
were
think
trying
I
to
might-
pick this
I
show
reckon-
up, Max.
I
Come
know,
on,
but let's
come
be
on,
real,
mate.
right? You
He's
can't
trying to
tell
help the
football
goalkeeper.
fans. I reckon I might have put that away.
It was a good
Yes,
finish.
about an hour.
Oh, come
but
on,
yeah, no,
come
you're
on.
right.
No,
It
it's
is
a good
a,
finish.
it's a good finish. Look, you alluded to it there. The idea when you come into a new side, right? Even if that squad is kind of already there, right? And we talk about the churn with all these sides over the close season, but to literally turn up and no one has. You know, there are some people who will know each other, but a totally new squad. You sort of think it's like those games at grassroots where a ringer turns up and you're like introducing yourself and saying to me, go, all right, mate, I'm Max, I'm Dave. And actually, they look like they had such a chemistry there.
Yeah, and I guess that's Steve Corica and having his kind of experience, knowledge of in the game and how he can get the best out of this Auckland side. But it wouldn't have been easy for the players because there's such a big expectation too as you go onto the field, wanting to do the best that you can for this new club and the fans that turn up. So there's got to be a lot of pressure in that. So my belief would be that Steve Corica was really just talking to the players weeks in advance before coming into this game just to really enjoy that moment. I know that you try to think about your game plan and what you should be doing, but really to just enjoy that moment. And what a spectacular moment it was, really.
A word on Brisbane Raw? Did they just turn up to be beaten?
Again, they did okay. I think, you know, we were talking about Thomas Waddingham and Ben Halloran. They didn't quite gel. Like, you know, there's
After last week, I was like, I'm waiting for the new Mark Viduka.
Yes.
You know?
yeah, you know,
It's a bit harsh on him.
Yeah.
I thought Costa looked okay. I think he had some bright moments in that first half down the left-hand side, but just, you know, there's room for improvement, I think, you know, and especially in that front third, they didn't really cause any problems. Alex Paulson, I think, caused his own problems with one clearance where he nearly got in trouble, but other than that, Dan Hall and Pinnaker, I think they look like a solid partnership with Sakai as well, who's got that experience.
And I think too, for those Brisbane players, it would be so intimidating as well to be going into an atmosphere like they were going into. I mean, we talk about that pressure of maybe the Auckland players, but you've got to think about that Brisbane side going there where it's just insane. And then all of a sudden, they're riding that adrenaline of the atmosphere and what's going on. And then all of a sudden, like, wow, we might be out of our depth here.
And you know what the manager's saying, like, just survive the first 15 minutes and then you score an own goal after 8 minutes. It sort of turned the game a little bit, you got to say. But you know what? Like, well done, Auckland.
Yeah,
Great
make it a
start.
real fortress, that place.
Big difference of opinion on how to treat a Prime Minister. It was a good way of me finding out that Jacinda Ardern isn't the Prime Minister of New Zealand, but he turned up, didn't he? And you liked the fan giving him the whole
That's the big kid in me. But
Yeah.
then Dad over here, that's the... Go on, Dad. Tell him your...
Yeah, no, I'm the old school. And, like, you know, there's certain situations where you got to keep the respect. Otherwise, this world is a bad place. You
Right,
know?
I see. Are
You
you,
know
about
what,
to look down
like,
the camera and say, won't someone think of the children?
Yeah. No, again, you know what? You know, you can do it to your friends and family, but, like, Prime Minister, maybe not.
Okay, let's go to the Sydney derby then. Western Sydney Wanderers 1, Sydney FC 2. Again, a great atmosphere there, wasn't it, Archie? And that was a really good game, I thought.
Oh, incredible. And you could see with Sydney FC, that front third is just incredible. And I believe that having those competitive games in the Asian Champions League has really helped that squad, especially in these early stages of this A-League season. It certainly showed against Western Sydney because I just thought they settled well, they put the pressure on Western Sydney and really just suffocated them. And to be fair, for Western Sydney, their record against Sydney at Parramatta Stadium or Combank isn't great. So already you could sense that the players were maybe feeling that, but you had quality all over the park. I thought that Douglas Costa?
That's him, yeah. The most famous signing. Who is it again? Who is it?
I have a knack of-
Douglas Jefferson? I'm not sure. Anyway,
when
He
you've
hasn't
got
scored
two
as many
names,
as me, so who cares?
two first names, I'm going to muddle that somehow. But Douglas Costa was did I say that right?
yeah. Back yourself, Archie.
I'm going to back myself.
He's not perfect, but he's ours. All right?
Yeah.
Carry on.
He was just amazing to watch. He just made it look so easy. Even when he had time on the ball and players would come towards him, just a little drop of the shoulder or a little quick jink, and he just makes that time that makes it look so easy, and players just defending him. It'd be so hard. But really slick all over the park. I will say Sydney FC front third is the best in the comp. And that's early stages.
And also, like, the question marks, we even mentioned it last week, is, how is he going to bet in? Is he going to
Does he care, right?
Yeah,
That's
does
the
he care?
question.
Is he going to give 100%? And you could see that he was gelling with his teammates, as you said, bright sparks. He had the energy as well. And, Joe Lolly, getting the goals, he was great last year. And Patrick Klimala, like, they people bring in new strikers, new players, foreign players. And 1 assist as well on top of
you were talking about
the
Klimala
goal.
last
Yeah,
week,
again, I had him as goal scorer of the competition, and he's off to a good start. And I think, they got young players. Hayden Matthews, we talked about. He was great, and then Courtney Perkins was watched by Popovic as well. So you know what, to me they've got a complete side at this moment in time. And yeah, it'll be a big test against Auckland next week.
Yeah,
carry on.
So I will say though, defensively, you did talk about I thought that Matthews was fantastic. Perkins, Popovic and Matthews, they are still quite young.
Yeah.
You could still see that they're maybe vulnerable at stages there, and particularly that first half. I would say that they got in behind in those wide areas and really just looked a bit disjointed. But that's. They're still quite young, so they'll get that all out and sorted, I think, once the season starts. But very, very good.
No, talk about big moments. Like, Popovic actually 2
Came off
minutes
the line,
before
yeah.
the goal saves it on the line. So sometimes these big games, you need the momentum, you need a bit of luck, and you need the quality. And I think Sydney just showed that in the right moments, they had that quality.
I did love the assist. That is really clever centre forward play, isn't it, from Klimala, isn't it? That little header.
Oh.
Just the awareness of where everybody is. The guys behind him, as a classic big target man. As the classic big target
was
man
Hayden
of
Matthews,
this
though.
three. Say again?
It was Hayden Matthews that
That was
assisted.
the second one.
No, the Joe Lolly's goal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that wasn't with his head. The second one was okay. Yeah. We shouldn't. Don't argue. But
Are you happy with that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because that ball did come
But
back.
to be fair, like, Western Sydney needs to shut it down. They got 3 or 4 players there. Clisby's there. So they shouldn't let him shoot from. He's under pressure from a bit of an angle, but it's a great finish.
Red card for Max Burgess. He'd been on for 4 minutes, hadn't touched the ball. It's a disappointing start to your season.
Yeah, well, it's happened a couple of times, I think, with Max Burgess, where he's maybe rash challenge, where he's got himself sent off and really put unnecessary pressure on your team, especially on the back end of a match. You have to go back to when he got sent off against Melbourne City in that semi-final, really early, silly challenge. And this one, I know you can understand that he wants to try and impact the game as much as he can, quickly as can. Oh yeah, no doubt about it. But you really just got to be smarter than that and really put his team under pressure.
I suppose you've never seen that kind of thing, having played for Stoke for so long, Thomas.
We tried to wind people up to get rid of red cards. I think Ronaldo got sent off once because he got wound up a bit. So it happens though.
Let's talk about Juan Mata. Obviously came off the bench, so it's hard to make a judgment, isn't it? And it's going to, presumably that's a fitness thing, right? It's going to take him time to get going. Yeah,
again, I think they were hoping for obviously a little bit of emotions and everything else, but he's going to bet in, and he's got the quality, to hopefully lift the team, because that's, he could be a great assistant there. You've got Josh Brianta there in the midfield, so they'll have plenty of experience alongside some of the younger players. And you know what, he needs to get up to speed quick, but, they got Western United next week away, so that's another opportunity for him to get more minutes. But yeah, we got to mention Vidakovic in goal, though. Thomas is out for a while. He came in. He's young, 21 years of age. Made a couple of good saves. Kept the minute at the end.
Lots of young keepers, aren't there?
Yeah. And this, obviously, as a keeper, I love talking about it. And we've got to give him credit. That save he made in the second half, I think from Klimala, could have had his second, where he gets it onto the post. Top class save.
Let's go to Campbelltown Stadium. Macarthur 6, Perth 1. 5-0 up at half-time, which is the joint biggest half-time lead in A-League history. It's almost too many goals to analyse. Just roll the goals. We'll talk about them. Like, as always with games like this, right? It is one team good, one team bad. So you tell me, is this Macarthur are much better than we thought they were, or Perth are hopeless?
Well,
what is it?
I will say that Perth really started the game brightly with a lot of energy. I thought that Macarthur would have done that, but then it really was a silly mistake by Bodnar that gave the goal to Macarthur. And Bodnar hasn't played much football. I don't think he played many minutes in the Australia Cup. Was really on the outer with Perth last year, and then all of a sudden he's in that central part of the midfield. I feel like where you need to have a lot of game time and be match fitness, or not just with the body but with the mind. And with that pass that he gave back, I mean, I don't know what he was seeing then.
I seriously think he saw the keeper. Because it looks like a direct pass. He as you said, he looks to be in full control. I think it's just
a brain fade.
Different identity. It's just, I don't know what he sees.
It was just, and then once that goes in, the head sort of drops for a lot of those Perth players. And then the second one, I'm trying to think how many goals. There were so many goals. That second one's really good, but it's a space that they allow a lot of these Macarthur players, would be concerning for Zilic, because the time that they had in the midfield, the time they had to turn and play players out in these wide areas. But that was a really great finish from Holman, I think, too.
Yeah, and you look for certain things. You look for, like, obviously, energy. Those one-on-ones, communication, the positioning and everything else. But you look at that back line, and Drillish even said it after the game. You've got an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, and 20-year-old. And then you got Kanja that's come in, doesn't even speak English. And he was put in that lineup, and it's sort of a little bit, it's got destruction all over it.
So whose responsibility is that? I mean, he's picking that
I don't know, team. It is, but there's also, you've got a foreign player coming in, and he's got heaps of young players. He's probably thought, let's try and let's hope. And he said, first 5 minutes was great, and then, and it wasn't one of them that made the first mistake, but you just look at the goals. Lack of tackles, just bad positioning. You could just see it's a backline that hadn't played together, and it cost them dearly. Now they've got Wellington at home. They'll look for better energy, and hopefully, 90 minutes under their belt, a little bit of better understanding of each other.
Yeah. Marian Yakulis, it was the goal of the game. I think that one he bent in the corner was a beautiful finish, wasn't it? He got two. I mean, even the Perth goal was terrible. Well, that's how bad their game was. Even the one
they
got in their way. And look, credit to me, because we're in the WhatsApp group. 5-0 at half-time. I said 5-0. We would say 5-0 at half-time is always 6-1. I always think if you're 5-0 at half-time, if you don't win 10-0, you don't deserve the points. I'm calling out Macarthur, not good enough for taking the foot off the gas. But it's always 6-1. And then it just went 6-0, 6-1 full time. Always happens.
And how were you feeling at home knowing that you put that in the WhatsApp? You were.
I was very, very nonchalant. It always happens. Like that is just you watch it every time. Like nobody can be bothered. You've won the game, so it's now just ease off, have a nice time. I did like the grassy knoll that you get to sit on. At that stadium. I mean, I don't know if they're trying to build a big stand, but that's a nonchalant way to watch football, isn't it? Do you want to sit in the stand or just lie on the grass? And every time you look up, there's a goal.
Well, they've got it behind the goal as well.
I think even
you don't know if they're on holiday or watching the football.
I think even Auckland's got a grass.
No, I think they've got like a flat. Yeah, they do have a little bit, and then they've got that build-up stand.
So look, we pumped up the season. We did this great new show that people love, and then we start on Friday night. We go, come on then, Central Coast and Melbourne Victory, give us a game, 0-0. Actually, look, it was a good 0-0.
Yeah.
There are bad 0-0s and there are good ones, and this was a good 0-0.
Yeah, well, look, I will say for Melbourne Victory, they did dominate large periods of that game up until that 60th minute where Miranda got sent off, which was a send-off, because if you put your foot up anywhere in a dangerous position...
Are you not having it?
Again, by the rules nowadays, but I'm sort of... we got
he likes
VAR.
old school.
I don't know, he barely touches him, and he's trying to play the ball. I know the rules are like that, but it's a contact sport, come on.
Look, there were big moments in this game. The missed penalty is a big moment. Of course it is. The VAR red cards. I mean, the first one...
I think fantastic it got overturned.
Yeah. Yes. But I mean, I watched it 1,000 times. I just couldn't... I don't know who was going in on who, and it was just one of those where...
He slid in on his knees, and obviously they're both going for the tackle, and, they hit each other.
Yeah.
I think that was great for the game that didn't... obviously Bruno just before the halftime misses that penalty, and then Velopele had an absolute open goal, just at the start of the second half. So, Victory had their chances, and then on the other side, like even with 11v10, they couldn't really create much. Central Coast Edmondson, I thought, was very. We talked about him. Like, can he make an impact after the grand final last year? You know what? He didn't quite, get into the game. They didn't quite find him. Okay start for both, I think.
I guess if you go away from home to the team that's won and you get a clean sheet and a point, you can't be too disappointed, right?
Yeah, I'd be disappointed if I was Victory with the way that they dominated that game and they really didn't take their chances. And I look at that Central Coast side. We did talk about a lot of the core of that team not being there after exits of lots of players.
Yeah, their midfield was changed,
And
right?
you could see that was missing. It just looked like they didn't have someone that was really comfortable to go get that ball and try to start something. And, when you had Max Ballard, I don't want to keep referring back to last year, but when you had Max Ballard or even Nisbet there, they were really comfortable on getting the ball and being able to play. Central Coast didn't seem to have that at all. And creative-wise, nothing. Like you said, even when they went a man up, nothing.
I thought the only thing was the substitution of Bailey Brantman, like a young player, came on. I thought he provided a bit of energy, but I agree with you that midfield, McCallum and Steele, it's going to take some time. That's what happens when you have that big overturn, and a lot of clubs are going through this in the A-League. So, I'm sure we'll see a much better, Central Coast side as we progress.
Which, taking us back to the top of the show, right? Which is even more credit to Auckland, right? Because they've all turned up, and they've found that. I mean, obviously, it's one game, right?
Yeah.
You never know next weekend.
And I will say the beautiful little story about Ames, the young boy that came on. He was only
Hayne Ames, is that
Hayne
right?
Ames,
Born on the
16,
27th of February 2008.
16.
That's sickening that he's
Yeah,
playing.
what were you guys doing at 16? Oh no, I wasn't.
16.
At least I was still playing at 2008, but my God.
Yeah.
Well done. Great for him. Youngest ever Mariners debutant there. 16 years and 8 months. That's amazing, isn't it? While we're on Victory, Mitch Langerak is coming back, isn't he? And we saw this big farewell for him in Japan. Those scenes are pretty wild, weren't they?
Oh, just amazing. He was an absolute superstar when he came into Melbourne Victory. I knew that he was going to go on to big and better things because he just had a real, his mental approach to everything. His work ethic was fantastic. And you can see everywhere he's gone. I mean, he went to Borussia Dortmund under Klopp, which you could see that that they had a beautiful relationship. He talked a lot about Klopp and how great he was for his... and it was probably hard, as a goalkeeper so young to come in to such a big club where you might not play football for a long time.
Yeah, and I think you hit it spot on there, the mental approach. He comes across as a true professional. Like going to Japan, spending 7 years there, there's not a lot of players that actually come there and earn the credit that he has.
Yeah.
And he owns the record for longest streak of clean sheets. It was like 800 or something minutes in the Japanese league. So he's had a fantastic time there. They love him. We saw the farewell scenes. I think he finishes in December, but still got a few games to go. But they love him, and that's a credit to him.
Yeah.
That's the personality, and I think Victory.
Does he walk straight into that team?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah,
I think he's
You would think so. Duncan, he's going to do a good job until then, but I think definitely,
Yeah, and I will say I'm disappointed in Mitch that he didn't at least try Japanese when he was giving that farewell speech. I don't know if you've seen that, but he's giving that really slow English for the fans to understand. But he should be speaking Japanese after 7 years. Well, Josh Kennedy was over there in the J-League, and he could speak Japanese. I don't think he was there as long as Mitch was. Yeah,
and you're fluent in Japanese, and you'd like to say hello to our Japanese viewers just straight down the barrel there. And then once you've done that, we're getting big in Indonesian now, so you can move on to... also, Patrick Isnorbo got,
slide tackle.
Yeah, got slide tackle. Always good to see a manager get taken out.
I love the way he pulled him back up. He took him by the neck and just held him, just showing who's still the boss. And typical Patrick. I loved it.
There is history of managers getting taken out in the A-League.
I could tell you who
that was. Tell us, because you were there, were you?
John Cosmina.
Oh, that's it.
Yes, I was there
Twice,
for both
wasn't
those
it?
games, yes.
Yeah.
One with Danny Alsop.
Yes.
dropped
And
the
actually-
biggest shoulder on
Well,
Cosy.
I don't know if that's. I think that's harsh on Allsop.
I do
remember it
too.
now. The commentators really go in on Allsop. I'm like,
Yes.
he can't go anywhere, can he?
Just bracing himself.
Yeah. And the other one was Kevin Muscat.
Kevin Muscat, yeah.
Muscat.
The first time he's ever made contact with another player or manager.
And that's when Cosy, I think, grabbed Kevin by the neck.
Yes.
And he was actually suspended for the next game or so.
Okay.
Yes. Good old Cosy.
A couple more games to get to then. Wellington won, Western United won. What did you make of this one, Thomas?
You know, I think actually Wellington looked pretty good. And again, we talk about new players, Ishige and Nagasawa, the two Japanese imports. Looked lively. Rufa again, I think, in midfield. Costa Barbosa's, he was their best player.
Yes.
He could have scored a couple of more goals in that game, but I think overall, John Aloisi would probably be very, very happy going back over the pond with a draw, because it could have been much difference after.
Yeah, I thought that Western United set up really well. They didn't let those key players, like you say, Rufa, to get on the ball. But when they did get him on the ball and they broke those sort of first lines of pressure, that's when they started to open up and play these wider, faster players for Wellington. And that's when they look good. That's when they've looked good last year, when they can break that press. But Western United, they really did stifle them in that first half. And then just a silly challenge in that right just before halftime. You know, that really coach killer goal before halftime. And Costa, 94th goal, I think, in his A-League career. There's only 3 other strikers that have gone over 100 goals. So
Archie Thompson
no,
is one.
No, not even.
What did you get?
92 or 93, yeah.
So look, if you could just get a bit fit, you've got this game with Ronaldinho that I'm trying to get on. You play well, you never know.
I did drop a text.
He'll
so
You dropped a, who did you text? Have you dropped a text?
Yeah,
have you got a reply
it's
yet?
on the charge. Yeah,
That's exciting, isn't it? I could just do a job and then I could keep Ronaldinho quiet in the non-moving pivot.
Yeah.
So look, not many. Who's got 100?
It's
McLaren?
McLaren, Bessart Barisha, and Bruno Fornaroli.
Okay, so it'll be a big moment when he gets there. He'll get there this season,
a
right?
massive one, because he's such a great player. I mean, he still has so much pace. Usually, when a player in those wide areas at his age and played an amount of games, you sort of see it drop off a little bit in the pace. But he just seems to get more. He gets quicker. He looks sharper in front of goal. He did have that opportunity though. If he had it back, I reckon he dinks that goalkeeper, and it's a different.
And also,
story.
I think more impressive, like we talked about last week, Ben Old gone,
Yes.
Kraev gone. There was supply lines. Marco Rojas comes back. He doesn't play in this game, So you sort of, well, where's all the service going to come from? But then, you pick up new players, and I think Conchi and Walker, 2 young players in midfield, I thought did a great job as well. So overall, I think good start for Wellington. They would be disappointed not getting 3 points.
Classic example of the don't cheer too soon on the equaliser here. I know we have to put sound on tape, but I think, is it Angus Thurgate? Brilliant turn from him, big air kick from Ollie Laval, and they all went, way, and then a minute later the ball's in the back of the net.
I will say again, I thought that with Wellington's defending, that last year, people would have been throwing their bodies at that. And I think that's what they were really renowned for last season, was when those balls were getting played in the 18-yard box and when someone was about to have a strike, they were throwing their body at that ball. That goal, I didn't see anyone kind of really trying to throw their body in the line.
They were all just going, way.
Yeah. But it's still a great finish from Fergie.
And also, we almost saw the greatest own goal of all time. Wow, I was really sad this
Wellington,
didn't go
Oliver
in.
Yemi, the new goalkeeper they've picked up, former Tottenham, I think, understudy. He kicked it into Wooden, but managed to dive back over his shoulder and just grab it before. I think maybe it was Costa who could have get it. There was definitely a player behind him. Yeah, it could have been an all-time A-League own goal.
Devastating that didn't go in. That would have made the weekend.
You love those things. As a goalkeeper, I hate those things. I don't wish it on any goalkeeper.
Your biggest? You must have hammered one into your own teammate.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually
made a mistake in your career. Or?
Oh, whoa! I made 1 or 2. But
what's your biggest ever mistake? In football, we can't go into that because then I'll go to Archie and who knows, we haven't got long enough.
The one that still hurts me is we played England in the World Cup. 2nd minute, I charged out for a corner.
Oh,
and Ferdinand headed it across goal. And to all the young players out there, when you make one mistake, don't try to make up for it by making another mistake. And that's what I did. I tried to catch it on the line and managed to sort of
does
more or
he throw
less
it in?
scoop it over the
I
line.
mean, I was absolutely wasted and
And
dancing
I-
on the spot when that happened.
Yeah.
But
And
thank you, Thomas.
You just celebrating
Thank you.
that good one. Yeah.
But it's all right. If you make a mistake against
You know
England...
what, you learn from it.
Yeah.
You
If you
learn
make a
from
mistake
it,
against
yeah.
England, you know that later in the tournament you can laugh when we go out in a really depressing way. You mentioned Melbourne City. They won 1-0 at Newcastle Jets. What did you make of this one?
Well, it definitely was. You're going to have rounds where maybe games don't really live up to any sort of hype, and this game I thought was that. Melbourne City got the goal early, and again it was through Aziz Behich. We talked about him and how influential he is getting forward on that left-hand side. Puts the ball in, and Tilio, another player that we talked about, that the more football he plays, the more exciting he's going to be for the league and for Melbourne City. But yeah, I just felt it was a bit flat.
Yeah, no, Melbourne City were great for the first 10 minutes, and that was about it. And I think they've, have had a habit of being in control for a little bit and then just handing it over. And then obviously Jimmy Jago gets stupidly sent off.
Yes.
And then they're on the back of, trying to defend at the end. And thankfully they had a 21-year-old goalkeeper who, I think to my surprise, played in front of Jamie Young,
Yes.
Patrick Beach. Made a
Played
couple,
well.
Done really
couple of good
well.
saves in the first half, across to Shushna at the back stick, and he makes a great save. A couple of long-range efforts, and I thought he was brave as well. And it'll be a big test now, the derby, because they have to bring more energy than they did for 80 minutes in that game. The
Yeah.
first 10 minutes were great. After that, I felt they just ran out of things. And
Yeah, and I will say that Newcastle Jets, we did talk about maybe leadership and having experience. It just felt like they didn't have that, especially when they had a man and they could really try to get something out of the game. But like I said, first game of the season, long season, so probably for Jets, you'd be hoping for a better performance for sure.
I've always thought Jamie Young, he looks a bit like a dad in Dawson's Creek or the OC. You know, that kind of, he's quite dashing. He's only about 35, but he's got teenage kids because they don't want to hire an actor who's old enough to be the dad. So he's quite good looking, but he's got that sort of, I'm quite old, but I still look young.
Yeah.
So maybe if he's not getting game time, he could go to pilot season in LA, maybe get himself that's a good gig because you're not a main character, but you're not going to get written out.
University degrees and stuff on the side as well, so he's quite well on.
All these multifaceted keepers.
Yeah,
Me see it. Thomas Sorensen's bought the first piece of art in. It's over there. Archie and I haven't seen it. It's a very exciting moment. We are going to be encouraging you to paint pictures and send them to us. I appreciate most people now are too lazy to do that. They just tweet us or whatever. But we want actual art sent to us. Well, that's all the games, isn't it? I think we've rattled through them pretty well. Next week, then, the Melbourne Derby is the big game then.
Yes, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. Azani is back from his suspension, so I think that'll be something to think about for Paddy Gasnorba. I know there was some issues leading in to the Australia Cup final where he didn't play him. Whether he's going to decide to go, okay, big match, we need maybe some more speed out there. I like Piscopo. I think Reno Piscopo is a great player. I don't necessarily see him out in a wide position where he's fast and quick and can deliver crosses. Azani's that type of player that, if he's playing well, one-on-one, no one can really compete with him. So that'll be an interesting one to see.
Do you think that they should start or continue with Bruno Fionarola from the start or Virgos? Because I looked at him, I heard everything you said last week and you were like, he hadn't impressed me. And then, so I was specifically watching him in the second half. I know they were down to 10 men for some of the time, but he didn't really do much for me as well. He didn't hold up the ball very much, where I think, Bruno Fionarola, he missed the penalty, but he also got the penalty. I thought he had some great link-up play with Marshas and other players. I would probably start Fionarola, even though he Virgus has been brought in with a high accolade.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I definitely they kind of threw Bruno in without playing too much football because I thought that Virgos was going to start, but then all of a sudden you get there and Bruno's playing and he hadn't played many minutes in the Australia Cup, if any in some games. and then all of a sudden you go here, you're starting. Like you said, he's going to be a full professional and try to do the best that he can. He'll get better with more game time and fitness, and he loves the big stage. He loves playing in these sort of games against his old club, Melbourne City. Which will be interesting because you got Paddy Gasnorbo who coaches.
There's plenty of players that played across.
Yeah, and you got the coach coming back, and then you've got Bruno Fornaroli still that bit of taste of how he left Melbourne City. So that always makes it great. But I'm expecting a full stadium at Amy Park for sure because we saw it in Derby last week. We saw Auckland. The ratings have just been sensational over this weekend too. So
is that because of this show?
Yes, we kick it off. We definitely kick it off. This is foreplay.
Just didn't know okay, well, whatever you want to call it, but I just didn't know we had that much power.
Where does my mind go sometimes?
Well, that's a great question, Archie, and that's why we love you.
Like going over to Melbourne City, they've got a hole with Jimmy Jekko out. Schreiber came on, but they brought in Alexander Kuhn.
Yes.
Does he come in? Is Matthew Leckie? That's going to be another. We talked about it. They got to get him fit. Like he has a muscle injury. Jonathan Cohen had that assist for the goal,
yes.
but again, they need some firepower.
Although my Israeli neighbour Yair says he was very good before he went to Italy.
Okay.
Hasn't been able to recapture that, but if he does...
Yeah, again, it's going to take time, but, again, I want to see some more attacking from Melbourne City against, in this derby.
And they played Naboot as a number 9 too in that game, which... I don't know, not familiar with that position for him. Yeah. He's used to being out in these wide areas, so might take him time if they're going to use Naboot in at 9 role. But it's going to be a very good game, that's for sure.
Auckland FC against Sydney FC is the other big one, right? It's another home game for Auckland, right? And if they can build on that momentum.
What an opportunity. And then you got the Wellington, they got the Kiwi Classico the week after.
Yes.
If they get 3 wins there, they're off and rolling. Again, it's going to be a big test for them. They will be up against, quality side, quality players that we talked about, and they'll be well organised, lots of experience. So we'll get a proper look at Auckland in that one and how they're going to fare. Can they bring the same energy? And
Auckland too. This will be the best time I'm guessing for Auckland to play Sydney FC because they're in Japan at the moment. Playing their Asian Champions League too. So they've got to go there and travel and try to compete at that. Then all of a sudden fly to Auckland.
God, that's a hike, isn't it?
Yeah, all in the space of a week. So if you're Auckland...
I hope they're going premium economy at least.
Not business, just premium.
Just premium. Yeah, it does make that little bit of makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does, definitely.
Adelaide didn't play this weekend. They kick off their campaign against Central Coast. We talked about them last week, didn't they? A lot of kids. So, Central Coast have had a game to warm up. So, tricky first game for them.
Yeah, it will be. But every season that we've had in the A-League, when there's a game at Cooper Stadium, it's always full. They always make such a great atmosphere. It's always intimidating. They've had a week's rest, so they'll be able to, feel fresh. And Carl Vitz had another extra week to work with the guys to iron out some stuff. There's been new upgrades in that stadium as well. Yeah. So I think there's some standing room for
the ultras.
Yeah, for the ultras. Yeah. So it's going to be great. I always loved my time going to Adelaide to play because you knew that the atmosphere was going to be really, really good. And I was really impressed with Adelaide in that Australia Cup. So they're going to give it a good run.
Brins, the Dutch centre half, hopefully he's fit. There's been some rumours that he might be touch and go. And apparently Archie Goodwin has played some minutes and scored a goal in a friendly. So we hopes that he can come in and make it. After he obviously came from Newcastle. So they again they're leaking a lot of goals, scoring a lot of goals, but can they replace Irankunda and Ibusuki? I think that's the big question, and somebody's got to step up.
More importantly, last week I was making those cliched comments that footballers don't do anything, and Thomas said, "Look, I'm an artist," and we said, "Okay, then what have you got?" And so Thomas Sorensen has brought in one of his works. I mean, you have a portfolio. We know your oeuvre is incredible.
I do have a fair few.
And so you've brought in some art. I think bring it around the back if you could.
So this is one
of the nameless producers that we don't want to credit. Thank you so much. So what do we call this, Thomas?
It's one of my. It's a piece of item from one of my all-time sporting heroes. Have a look at it.
Is it a Tony Pulis baseball cap?
It is, yeah.
Oh, look at that. You painted that.
Yeah.
Wow. That is
Pretty good.
That's it. I was not expecting this. That's
Where's the rest of him?
I couldn't quite fit it in.
It's good. Can we hang it up on the wall? Because if you notice, they've given us, they've souped up our studio after one episode. But this is it, Thomas. How long does that take you?
It takes a long time.
Yeah?
It's dedication, self-taught. So obviously, it's taken me a fair few years to get to this level. But yeah, it's something where I can zone out, and like to all like young players and stuff, and get a hobby, get something where you can switch off and think about something else. Put some music on, get the brush out and get going.
I'm blown away.
Next week, Archie will do.
I was expecting stick figures or something.
I know what you've got to do next week, Archie. You've got to do a canvas. Have you got a busy week?
I could probably. Come on. But how long did it take you to do this?
It takes like 30 hours.
30 hours. Okay. Come on, mate. Is that just
I can find half an hour.
30 minutes. I'm very impressed.
That's very impressive.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
Okay,
Thomas Sorensen. You wouldn't get that from Peter Schmeichel. So, we got the best Dane. Thank you, gentlemen. Always
Max.
fun.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time, as always. I say as always, I'm on 2, but I think we're still on for episode 3. Thank you, Archie.
Thanks, Maxie.
Thank you, Thomas.
Always a pleasure, man.
We'll be back next week with the Isuzu UTE A-League download. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it.